WayForward is a company that's often overlooked in the gaming community, and I can kind of see why. A majority of the titles that WayForward releases are licensed games. They usually don't have enough money to create first-party titles, but when they do get enough money to create first-party IPs, their creativity really shines through, and they create some of the best stuff they've ever done. This creativity can be seen bursting out of their most beloved series, the Shantae series, but obviously that's not the only thing they've created over the years. Back in around June of 2009, the Mighty series began, with the release of Mighty Flip Champs, and it was continued with significantly different games later on down the line. Unlike a normal IP where at least some of the base concepts of the previous titles are kept in order to build upon them, the Mighty series completely dumps pretty much everything the previous titles did and starts fresh. This could be seen in the second Mighty game released for DSiWare, because DSiWare totally worked out well. On May 9th, 2011, Mighty Milky Way, which was a very different game from Mighty Flip Champs, was released. But Mighty Milky Way isn't what we're here to talk about today. Later, in December of 2011, Mighty Switch Force, the third Mighty game, was released. This game blew up, comparatively to the other games in the series, due to it releasing on the 3DS console, which, at that time, had almost no games at launch. There was pretty much nothing to play, so people picked up what there was to play, and, well, Mighty Switch Force was one of those titles. This game was rated very highly in both the eyes of consumers and reviewers. Pretty much everyone loved it. And it's for that reason that later on, in June of 2013, another game was released. This game being Too Fast for Gnomes, baby! The best 3DS title you could possibly own! Oh my god! It's so much bang for your buck. Your gnome running around on the ground and you're jumping up in the air and you're dying a bunch. It's really cool. It's a really cool game. Yeah, no, not actually. That game is pretty trash. It's pretty awful. There's actually a release for the Wii U and 3DS, and I don't know why there are two of them, because it's really not that great. But hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess. The game that was actually released was Mighty Switch Force 2 for the Nintendo 3DS, the sequel to the critically acclaimed first title. This game did more or less as well as the first title, but people don't talk about it, or the first game that much for that matter anymore, which kinda sucks. Both of them are really solid, so seeing both of them ignored to an equal amount is really sad. But anyway, later, in October of 2013, Mighty Switch Force 2 got a re-release for the Nintendo Wii U, which is the version I'll be playing here today. Hopefully I can ignite some conversation about this game and get some people interested in it. I want to spread the love for this thing as much as I can, as much as humanly possible. So, I'm going to stop taking you away from the game itself, and, instead, without further ado, let's get into Let's Play
Mighty Switch Force 2!
That cutscene is the only one you're gonna see in the entire game. This game isn't very focused on story at all. But anyway, let's get into a few things before we actually, well, start playing the game proper. I'm going to be explaining things like you're a child, and that's not because I don't trust your intelligence, that's because, well, because this game isn't well known. I'm going to be saying things that may come as obvious things to some who have played this game series before, but I'd rather assume that people don't understand what's going on than assume people do understand what's going on in a lesser known game. So it's pretty simple. Let's hop right into it. One of the main mechanics is already shown off as is. Because this is a puzzle platformer, we aren't necessarily going from point A to point B. No. In fact, we are collecting, well, collectibles to an extent. These are the Hooligan Sisters. There are 5 in every single level, and your goal is to collect them all. There are a few things that go into 100% completion, which I will be doing. I will be 100% completing this game, but just know the Hooligan Sisters are what you are going for mainly. There's also checkpoints. Those are not as important. But the most important thing, the main mechanic of this game, is if you press the L or R trigger, or the A button, I'm going to be pressing the A button because that's the most comfortable for me, you'll notice that the block right in front of me gets pushed into the background. If I press the button again, it gets pushed into the foreground. That is the entire mechanic of the main mechanic of this game, rather. That's not the entire mechanic of this game. That would be kind of sad. That would be very basic as well. But no, this is the main mechanic of this game. We will be continuously switching certain blocks that differ in later levels. Just know for now that all we have are normal blocks. But in later levels, we will have different blocks. We'll be pushing them into the background of the foreground. I obviously can't speak right now, for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on. It's a little weird. But yeah, this mechanic is really, really cool. It's basic, but it still does really interesting stuff at the same time, and I love mechanics like that. I'm a sucker for them. So, this mechanic, the pushing blocks into the background and foreground, will play an important part in killing enemies, as you saw right there, platforming, as you're seeing right here, and solving puzzles, which we're not seeing necessarily right now, but we'll see it later. Something else to note, we are using a hose as our main weapon. We are also a firefighter. That's kind of an important aspect of this game. We are going to be putting out fires. The entire mechanic of the Hooligan Sisters is based around us saving them from fires. And another mechanic, this one goes towards 100%, is the USB, which is short for the Ugly Secret Baby. There's one of these in every single level, and your goal is to punt them into a safe area. I don't necessarily get that. It's the way forward charm shining through, but the mindset that our main character here goes through, whose name is Patricia Wagons, by the way, that's not necessarily important, that's why I didn't mention it first. I don't know, we've been sliding the Hooligan Sisters into our back pocket that entire time. Fully grown adults, but yet a baby, a small child. They're just not gonna fit in the back pocket, they can't go in there, we gotta just punt them and hope they land in a safe area. I don't know, I think it's kind of funny. But, that is the first incident down. There are 16 incidents in this game, incidents or levels. I'm going to be interchanging between the two, doesn't necessarily matter all that much. And, it's gonna be real quick. I want to bring this up right now before hopping into the next level. This game's gonna be short, therefore they layer mechanics on heavy, because there are a decent amount of things shown off in this game and a lot of concepts that are used. It's just that they're used in a very small amount of time. So I'm gonna have to kind of speed things up. And I know some people aren't necessarily really into that, into me going through mechanics very quickly, and I apologize about that, but that's not something I can avoid when it comes to this game. Now, an idea I've had. That guy right over there, he's looking like a little bad enemy, right? I'm a sucker for official terminology, and I mean a sucker. I really, really want to call things by their official name. Sadly, I won't be able to do that in this playthrough at all. The reason for that is because there are not any official terminologies for the enemies to my knowledge. If there are, and I've just missed them, please point them out to me. But to my knowledge, no official terminology for the enemies in this game has been given. So, I have an idea. In this playthrough, in the comments section, I want people to give whatever they want to call these enemies. Just give them a name, essentially. And I'll also be giving them names as I run past them. I'm just going to call this guy Greenie for now. The pink guys I've been killing, I'm going to call them Pinkies. And I'm just going to kind of go with that for the time being. But if you have any interesting ideas, any interesting names you want to call them, be my guest. At the end of this playthrough, I will list what I think to be the most interesting, quote-unquote, official terminologies for these enemies. That's the idea I have. Now, we'll see how well that goes. I'm honestly not sure. But I'm really hoping that it could turn out to be something interesting. I won't necessarily be able to use the official terminologies in this playthrough because, well, I'm going to kind of list them all at the end of the playthrough, and we're not going to know the names of all the enemies that exist until the end of the playthrough. But more importantly, you might have just noticed that entire rant I just went through made it so I missed 2 different blocks. One of which is the purple block, which is called a launch block. There is an arrow on that purple block, aka the launch block. Again, I'm just going to be calling them by their official name, or as official as I think those names are. I don't know. They're a part of the Wikipedia page. I'm going to assume they're official. I'm going to be calling them launch blocks. I don't know why I had to state that like 3 times. But there are arrows on these launch blocks. Whatever way the arrows are pointing, you will push the block into the foreground, and it will shoot you in that direction of the arrow. There are also mud blocks. You just make them disappear using your water hose. You wash them away. It's really simple stuff. That's pretty much it. Mud blocks get a little bit more interesting later on, but just know for now that you want to make sure that you're getting rid of the correct mud blocks. Don't just go get rid of them willy-nilly, because that will kind of get you stuck between a rock and a hard place on occasion. Now, more importantly, you'll notice that I've been messing with a few Charcoal Boys. That's going to be their official name as well for now. So, right now, Charcoal Boy's on fire, and you just saw that once he hit something while he was on fire, he blew up. But if he's not on fire, and he gets shot out of a launch block and hits the ceiling, he will not blow up instantly. That's going to be a main mechanic for solving puzzles in this game. I don't think Charcoal Boys are used too often. To my knowledge, I don't believe they are. But it's still important to keep in mind. And something else to mention, there are also wooden blocks. They're wood. They catch on fire. It's about as in-depth as it goes. But yeah, I really like this mechanic. And this is actually a perfect time to mention this. WayForward is known for Shantae, which is more of a Metroidvania. But their puzzle platformers are so underrated that it physically hurts me, and that's not even a joke. I see someone saying, what's the heck's a WayForward? And then my stomach churns and like, I don't know, blood shoots out of my eyes. That's probably not okay. But more importantly, I really love the way WayForward does their mechanics, their puzzles rather. I think that a lot of people kind of ignore a lot of WayForward's first-party titles, and they kind of focus on Shantae. They hyper-focus, if you will, on that one franchise that everyone knows about. And while I think Shantae is definitely a solid series, and I think it deserves the attention it gets, WayForward does a much better job at creating puzzle platformers than Metroidvania-esque games, in my personal opinion. I actually enjoy Mighty Switch Force, both the first game and this game, significantly more than I enjoy any of the Shantae games I've played. Not to say, again, the Shantae games are bad, they're good. I just, you know, probably not for me, honestly. And, I don't know, I think that WayForward does a really good job with puzzle platformers, and people sadly ignore them a majority of the time. This being a perfect example. People don't talk about this game much anymore. And while that could be an issue of the game being really short, which I can understand, you know, you play it once, there's not a real reason to go back and play it a second time, that's just kind of something that happens with puzzle platformers, sadly. And while I see that's the case, I kind of wish they were talked about more even today. But anyway, more importantly, let's forget about that, and let's talk about some new mechanics which are showing up. Spiky Boys, they appeared in the first level, and they don't die with your hose. You have to just kind of shoot them in the direction you want them to go into. Now, the reason that I'm killing them right now, and the reason I actually have to kill them, is because there are gates that are littered throughout this level, and there will be gates that are littered throughout other levels later on. The gates will not open until you kill the Spiky Boys, so you just kill them. It's a pretty basic concept, but I think it actually does make the enemies... It makes enemies a little bit more interesting, because I think that enemies are just kind of in the way and don't do anything interesting majority of the time. I think there's one other enemy that I can think of that does something relatively interesting, and it's just annoying. The thing it does interesting is, oh, it's annoying. But I think that this is one of the only good uses of enemies in this entire game, I'm gonna be honest. Actually, no, the Pinkies. The little pinky guys that you kind of kill PD Piranha style by blowing them up with water. They're used relatively well as well. They usually have a hooligan sister in them, and I don't know, I think that's an interesting use in general, but more importantly, see this mud block right here? You don't want to break this. Now, you could wash it away, hypothetically. That would make it so that you couldn't get the ugly secret baby, though, unless you did a relatively precise jump, and I'm not really in the mood for that. Again, I say a relatively precise jump. I've made it quite a few times. It's not too difficult to make, and I wouldn't say that you have to replay the level if you do wash away those mud blocks, but it's a perfect example of where you would not want to do that, and later on, there will become times where you're like, oh, I washed away a mud block that I wasn't supposed to. Great, now I can't beat the level. And while that's fine, I do find that to be kind of annoying, and I don't know, I think it's used perfectly fine here. It's not too big of a deal, but I think later on it gets very, very annoying. But more importantly, we're done with 4 levels. We just kind of dashed through these. You'll notice these levels take around 2 minutes, and I'm kind of taking my time with these. I really am not speeding through these as fast as I possibly could. This game's short. That's all I'm trying to say. But, with that being said and done, we've done 4 levels. Every single episode I will be doing 4 levels, except for the last few videos. I'm still kind of thinking about what I'm going to be doing for those, but we'll see as time passes. But anyway, next time on Mighty Switch Force 2, hopefully we can calm down. Things will be a little less hectic. I won't be trying to tell you about new mechanics every 5 seconds. and we can just kind of chill out and have a good time. But chilling out and having a good time is for next time. Until then.